Good morning. This is Mona, and this is my morning view. I have to turn off my sound, so if you will hold one moment while I'm telling you that it is the first fall 2025 edition from Monday, Memory Monday. Okay, let me get this sound shut off because the texts are already starting. Airplanes buzzing by. I got my ears in, which amplifies everything. All right. And then the sun popped out just as I hit go, just so one of us gets blinded. Good start for Memory Monday on this first fall 2025. Oh, I love fall. Fall is my favorite time of year. There's not a whole lot that I don't like about fall. It's really wonderful. All right. So, a little bit cooler. That's wonderful. Had a party over the weekend. So I got to finish cleaning up from that. All right, Memory Monday. So, I've gotten a little bit political the last couple of sessions. So, not political in the sense of telling you what you should think about politics or your political bend. I'm not into telling you what your political bend should be. But let's talk about politics today. Not the way you think it is. So, there was this comment made concerning people that get into politics, that they shouldn't mix their faith with politics. And so I thought of some of the nowadays people that have their hand in politics. You've got, well, Charlie Kirk was one of those people. There was, there's Reverend Al Sharpton, Reverend, is his name Jesse Jackson? Jesse Jackson, I think. Or is that a baseball player? Okay, you all know who I'm talking about. Okay, and then some less known people, Lance Wallnau, different people that they're known for their faith and politics. Okay, so we're not going to talk about any of them today. That's just giving you a modern day catch up of, there are people. Billy Graham was in that mix. He was the president's in all the presidents for a long time, came to Billy Graham for advice, for prayer, for all of those things. So, in the sense that, in that sense, he was involved in politics, but not like a member of, a political regime or any of that. Okay, so the reason why I'm talking about it, there was a time when I thought about this. All right, before I keep going, okay, because once I get on a roll, I'm going to get on a roll. So if you're watching this on Facebook, when you are done, if you are watching it live or today, when you are done, go over to YouTube, Mona E. Harrison. You will see my white hair. You will see my beautiful face. And you will know that you are in the right spot. And when you get to Mona E. Harrison on YouTube, subscribe. And therefore, you can go back and you can watch all the uploaded stuff on fast speed. Yay! You can't really do that on Facebook unless you have a speed controller. And as far as I know, there's no speed controller for the phone, but on your laptop or on your computer. So, therefore, you don't want to sit there and listen to it on slow speed, because I know that if you speed up my mouth, you can still understand what I'm saying. Just a save time thing. So, that and Facebook only allows it up for 30 days. So, if you miss something, especially something in a series, you can go back to YouTube and watch it for any time. All right, so that's my commercial. That's what I'm sticking to. And so now I'm going to move on to politics. So there was a time back in the 80s that I would get very riled up by listening to different narratives, because that's what narratives try to do, rile you up. And so I would start preaching in my living room, back and forth, talking about scripture, this, that, and the other thing. And on occasion, I would sit there and imagine myself throwing my hat into the political ring. In other words, running for an office. And that occurred to me a couple of times throughout my life. Not as of late. Maybe a little bit as of late, but not currently. Okay, so with that in mind, the conversation was that Christians should not be mixing their faith with politics. They should not have a political form or platform to speak about faith and politics mixed together. And let me give you some Bible references to this notion. Okay. First of all, it's flawed. It's a flawed notion. But it doesn't have complete unwarranted mention, right? It's not completely unwarranted. However, there are spaces where Christians absolutely should be involved in politics. In the Bible, there's some Old Testament examples of this where you had individuals that either held high-ranking offices in government that served the Lord. They did not waver from their faith in the Lord, and the purpose that they had was for their people. For their people. Okay, getting a little warm. So, you had people that were in high-ranking offices. You had advisors to the king. Advisors to the king. So, therefore, the king was able to get advice from a godly standpoint on what they should or shouldn't do. So there's some examples of that. Some prophets that advised the king. And I think that's a very important place to have, especially in this day and age where you need some advice and discernment from the Lord, and your mind is so filled with the needs of the nation that sometimes you can't settle down to listen to the Lord, especially if you don't have that capability because maybe you don't have the same faith as someone else. So you lean on the man of God to give the word of the Lord. And then you had those that were in grassroots positions. Prophets that came up and said, "Look, nation, you're in a miserable state. And this is what's going to happen if you don't get out of that miserable state." So you have individuals from a grassroots position. So, governmental position, Moses. Moses was the leader. He took the Israelites out of Egypt, and he led, and he judged. You have Daniel. Daniel was taken during exile, and because he was in the court, the children of the court were decided by the Chaldeans that they probably had the ability to have a greater understanding of things and being able to learn things. So they trained them in the ways of the Chaldees. This is where you get Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, Daniel. There was multiple others. We know this when Daniel was talking about the fast and how they were going to fast on vegetables. They weren't going to eat the king's meat. And then see at the end of a certain time who was healthier. I'm not propagating being a vegetarian or vegan. I actually should be on paleo myself, but which is more meat eating, but I'm definitely not a carnivore diet individual. But just mentioning Daniel and vegetarian, people all go, oh, that's what we should all do. No. You do what works for your body and what works for you. All right. Moving right along. What are some other leaders? You had Deborah was a judge of Israel. Okay, so there was Deborah holding an official space. There was she kind of shared the title. But it was obvious in the word who the judge was. Who the individual was that heard the word and led the people. All right, so from there, you have those that influenced the king. Elijah. I think Jeremiah may have been in that mix. Trying to remember if Jeremiah was part of the grassroots portion. So you had those people that came to Nathan. Nathan the prophet came to David. So he influenced the king. And so when you have those that influenced the high officials. Joseph. I forgot Joseph is one of those high has the title second in command of all of Egypt. And that was at the time the known, world. That was the highlight of the time. Egypt, greatest nation in the known world. And he was second in command. Only to Pharaoh, who most people considered a god. So you have those officials, then you have the influencers, those that influence and have space to direct and instruct the king or the president or the magistrate or, wherever that person is that God is bringing them to be an influencer. And then you have the grassroots people, the ones that hooped and hollered and from the bottom and warned the people. And so there's a place for Christians to be in politics. There's a place for multiple levels of Christians being in politics. And I believe that there should be Christians in both parties, in all the parties, in order to bring balance to the parties. And to be a representation for us, because a lot of times we don't get into politics. People like Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in getting involved in politics. And so who's there to stand for them? Who's there to represent them, right? And when we take on this role of we're not getting involved with politics, what happens is we lose the choice. We lose the choice and we lose the ability to pray in our school. And the schools have gotten worse and worse and worse in its realm of safety. So, it's important for Christians to be involved in politics. But, hear me out. A lot of people in Israel, a lot of people in the Old Testament, thousands upon thousands upon thousands, and how many people did you see actually in politics? Some are called to the political mountain. That mountain thing, I believe, is a Lance Wallnau imagery. So there's mountains of influence in our world. And I won't get into that because that's his thing, for one. But some people are called to the mountain of politics, of government. Government, I won't say politics. Government. Politics itself, the root word of politics is in itself not a very good meaning, but at the same time really gets you the picture of what's going on in today's world, and actually in the world of politics throughout time. So government is a whole different category, because remember, Jesus has an ecclesia. Ecclesia does not mean church. Ecclesia means government. And so when Jesus talks about the government of the kingdom that is not of this world. Remember, the zealots were all about, let's conquer the oppressors in this world to establish a God government. And that's not what Jesus came to do. He wanted to establish a God government into our hearts. And there will be a time when his government will rule over everything. And we will be part of it. We will be leading cities. Because it says that we will be leading cities. I will give you cities. You are called to be kings and priests. So, when you're talking about Christians being in government, not everybody's called to that mountain. And when you are called to that mountain, God will equip you to play on their field. He will equip you to do the job that he has called you to do. And so that is one aspect of when we get into government. We throw our hat into the ring. We do politics. That you're there to represent your people. You're there to govern, influence, or grassroots to a better nation. And as prophets, they're men of God. They're men of God. They were not necessarily priests. They were men of God. But let me tell you a little bit about the role of a priest. Because we're called to be kings and priests. God told Moses to tell Aaron what to say over the nation. He said, say the blessing over the nation Israel, so that they will be blessed. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you. The Lord be gracious to you. I may have said some of that backwards. The Lord shine his face. Let's see. The Lord bless you and keep you. shine his face upon you, be gracious to you, turn his countenance towards you, and give you peace. Something to that effect. Numbers 6 in the 20s, like 21, 24, something to that. I want to say it's in 24. 21 may start him talking about, say the blessing. So anyways, normally I can rattle that thing off, and, sometimes live, I'm just like, So, the blessing. It's one of the few things that I do know somewhat the address. I know the street it's on. I know the town it's in, And all I have to do is look at the house numbers, and knowing which house it is, I know that I'm in the right spot. All right. So as a priest, the priest's job is to bless the nation. So in a sense, it has a governmental role. So in our space, we are to bless the nation in our prayer closet. We're to bless the nation with our mouth. Our mouth. So wherever we are, we can bless the nation. Which brings me to the last scripture, Chronicles. If my people, God's people, the people that claim to be Christians, if my people will humble themselves, turn from their wicked ways. One, I haven't seen a heck of a lot of humility going on concerning the governmental realm. I've seen a whole lot of boasting and pride and arrogance. If my people, God's people, Christians, will humble themselves and turn from their wicked ways, repent. There's been a whole lot of wickedness spew out of your mouth for the last good 10 years. And the priests, as in the clergy, have amplified it through some of their sermons. Some of the speech that they talk about in church. Fueling the narrative. Not being the antagonist to the problem, but joining in the problem. So instead of blessing their nation, they are cursing the nation through their lips. If my people will humble themselves and turn from their wicked ways, then God will heal the nation. Then God will heal the nation. Now, that's not a perfect, in quotes of that verse, but you can all find it with just those words. Just Google the words, you'll find it. It's in Chronicles, but which one I don't know. I think it's 2 Chronicles. I think it's around 1724 or 24:17 or something like that. I have a GPS. And the GPS will get me there. It may take a little bit more effort, but I can get there. So whether you are someone who's like, oh, Christians should not be involved with politics. Charlie Kirk got what he got because he was involved in something that he shouldn't have been involved in. I don't think that's true. I think that Christians should be involved in politics, but not all people. I think the people that are called to that mountain, those people that God is putting in your heart to serve the people of the nation, those are the ones that should throw their hat in the ring, have a political office, or be an influencer to the kings, to the president, or from a grassroots position, which I think is where possibly Charlie Kirk came from. I don't know a lot about his ministry or how he ended up where he was at such a young age. I don't. But I can imagine that God just opened up doors for him because he needed to speak. And so, he's a man. Did he get 100% right? Probably not. Probably not. We're not perfect. No politician is perfect. No priest or clergy is perfect. And we are not perfect. But God has a space to heal the land. But it's going to take us. Not getting involved in politics. Not joining the political narrative and acting like you have a stake in the game with politics. You kind of do, because you get the vote in this nation. You have a voice. You have freedom of speech. Remember that just because you can say something doesn't mean you should say something. Not all things that are lawful are expedient. Just because something is legal doesn't mean it's good for you. That includes the freedom of our choice and the freedom of our words. Because there's consequences you pay for freedom. And there's consequences you pay with blessing and curse. And there's consequences that you pay for saying your own thing and not what God's words are. That includes taking his words and twisting them to match your narrative. So I just ask that while you're thinking about it, see if you are being called to this mountain. Don't let others tell you it's foolishness, you shouldn't do it. It's what God's calling you to do. Obedience. Obedience is the thing on that. And where exactly is he calling you? Is he calling you to an office? Is he calling you to be an influencer? Are you being called to lead a grassroots movement? Or are you just called to pray? It says to pray for our leaders. Not discredit them. Not tear them down. Not speak curses over them. You're to pray for your leaders. Bless your nation. And the most important, in order to heal the land, is to humble yourself. Turn from your wicked ways. All right. That's all I have for today. Blessings, everybody. Have a great day. And I will see you tomorrow.